Chancellor Vorthok stood before the assembled War Council in his private chambers on Zentaurus Prime, his 6 arms gesturing frantically as he tried to comprehend the reports flooding in from across the Empire. 4 months had passed since that insignificant human ambassador had declared war on the galaxy, and the impossible was happening. The humans were winning. "Explain to me again how an entire fleet simply vanishes," he demanded from Admiral Zexkar, commander of the Empire's northern territories. The 7th Fleet contained 200 ships and 50,000 personnel. Military vessels do not just disappear. Admiral Zexkar, a battle-scarred veteran of 3 galactic wars, struggled to maintain his composure. "Supreme Chancellor, the fleet's final transmissions indicated some form of atmospheric contamination. All crew members experienced simultaneous respiratory failure across multiple ships. Our investigation teams found no evidence of weapons fire, no signs of battle damage, no trace of hostile forces." "And the other incidents?" Science Director Kalthmer, the Empire's leading expert in biological warfare, stepped forward with his report. 17 colonies across 3 sectors are experiencing atmospheric degradation. Initial symptoms appeared as minor air quality issues, but the contamination is accelerating exponentially. Zephyrian respiratory systems are shutting down en masse. Chancellor Vorthok's primary arms clenched into fists. "Are you suggesting the humans are using biological warfare?" "The evidence is circumstantial but compelling. The atmospheric agents targeting our worlds are specifically designed to affect Zephyrian physiology while remaining harmless to other species. The precision suggests advanced knowledge of our biology combined with sophisticated genetic engineering." Intelligence Director. Vorthon activated holographic displays showing trade routes throughout the galaxy. "Our analysis indicates the contamination patterns follow standard commercial shipping lanes. Human merchant vessels have been traveling these routes for decades, carrying what appeared to be legitimate cargo." The Chancellor studied the display, beginning to understand the scope of humanity's strategy. "You're telling me that peaceful human traders have been seeding our worlds with biological weapons?" "It appears so, Supreme Chancellor. The humans have transformed their entire civilian merchant fleet into a delivery system for biological warfare. Every trade agreement, every cultural exchange, every diplomatic meeting has been an opportunity to deploy weapons we couldn't detect." Admiral Zexkar interrupted with even worse news. "Chancellor, we're also experiencing unprecedented intelligence leaks. The humans somehow knew about our planned offensive against the Tau Ceti colonies 3 days before we issued the attack orders. Our fleet arrived to find the colonies evacuated and the star system seeded with automated defense platforms." "How is that possible?" Intelligence Director Vorthon's expression grew grim. "We've identified the source. Human operatives have been embedded in our commercial and diplomatic networks for decades. Researchers at our universities, traders in our markets, cultural attaches in our government centers. They've been gathering intelligence while appearing to pursue peaceful cooperation." Chancellor. Vorthok felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. The humans had spent 60 years building relationships across the galaxy, and the Empire had welcomed them as harmless curiosity seekers. Now those same relationships were being weaponized with terrifying efficiency. What about our counteroffensive capabilities? Admiral Zexkar consulted his tactical displays. "That's where we face our greatest challenge, Chancellor. Human settlements are scattered across thousands of systems, often in regions we consider uninhabitable. Their colonies are heavily decentralized. With no single point of failure we can target for maximum impact. More importantly," added Science Director Kalthmer, "human biology appears to be remarkably adaptable. Our initial attempts at biological warfare against their settlements have failed. The humans seem capable of surviving atmospheric conditions that would kill most species." Chancellor Vorthok remembered the human ambassador's words about Earth being a death world. At the time, he had dismissed it as primitive boasting. Now he was beginning to understand that humans had evolved to survive conditions that other species considered lethal. "What about direct military assault?" "Problematic," Admiral Zexkar admitted reluctantly. Human ships don't fight in formations we recognize. They strike from asteroid fields, use gravitational weapons, and employ tactics that seem designed for hunting individual targets rather than engaging fleets. We've lost 8 more squadrons to what appear to be modified survey vessels. The Chancellor's rage was building to dangerous levels. You're telling me that the greatest military force in galactic history is being defeated by farmers, scientists, and survey teams? Chancellor, Intelligence Director Vorthon said quietly, I don't think we understood what we were declaring war against. Human farmers are terraforming specialists capable of reshaping entire planets. Their scientists have created biological weapons we can't detect or counter. Their survey teams know more about galactic geography than our own military cartographers. Science Director Kalthmore pulled up historical data about Earth. Our xenobiological analysis was fundamentally flawed. We classified humans as peaceful herbivores based on their diplomatic behavior. But the homeworld data suggests something very different. Earth has a mass extinction rate unlike any planet in our databases. Every major predator species that once dominated Earth is now extinct, eliminated by human expansion. The implications began to sink in. Chancellor Vorthek had ordered the massacre of children belonging to the galaxy's most successful extinction-level species. The humans hadn't been peaceful because they were weak. They had been peaceful because they were strong enough to choose restraint. Options? The Chancellor demanded. Admiral Zexkar-S response was hesitant. We could attempt to negotiate, offer reparations for the New Haven incident, and establish new diplomatic protocols. Absolutely not. Vorthek's roar echoed through the chamber. The Zephyrian Empire does not negotiate with inferiors. We have ruled this galaxy for 4,000 years. We will not be defeated by upstart mammals from a backwater system. Intelligence Director Vorthon tried one more approach. Chancellor, our analysis suggests that human war capabilities scale exponentially under threat. The more pressure we apply, the more dangerous they become. Perhaps a strategic withdrawal would allow us to regroup and develop effective countermeasures. Chancellor Vorthok's decision sealed the Empire's fate. Deploy the Omega Fleet. I want Earth reduced to radioactive ash within 10 days. When the humans see their homeworld burning, they'll remember why the Empire rules the galaxy. As the War Council dispersed to implement the Chancellor's orders, none of them realized they had just escalated the conflict to the exact level where humans became most dangerous. They were about to discover what happened when persistence hunters felt their home. Territory was threatened. In space around Earth. Automated monitoring stations detected the massive Zephyrian fleet gathering at the edge of the solar system. The readings were transmitted instantly to hidden human command centers, where Admiral Chen began implementing contingency plans that would transform the solar system into humanity's greatest trap. The Empire's final gamble was about to begin, but they were no longer fighting against peaceful colonists and diplomatic survey teams. They were about to face humans defending their homeworld, and that was a level of danger the galaxy had never witnessed. Dr. Sarah Kim had been working in her laboratory aboard Ceres Station when the war declaration reached human space. As one of humanity's leading experts in synthetic biology, she had spent her career creating beneficial organisms for terraforming and medical research. Now, 6 weeks after New Haven's massacre, she was designing something far more sinister. Her laboratory had been transformed into a biological weapons facility, though nothing in the sterile white chamber suggested its deadly purpose. Rows of cultivation tanks contained what appeared to be standard atmospheric bacteria, but Dr. Kim's modifications had turned these microscopic organisms into the galaxy's most sophisticated biological weapons. Status report on Project Genesis, she said to her assistant. Dr. Michael Chen, who monitored the bacterial growth rates through quantum microscopes. Generation 47 is showing exceptional promise, Dr. Chen replied, his voice carrying both excitement and horror at their creation. The nanobacteria can now survive in hard vacuum for up to 6 months while remaining dormant. Once they encounter specific atmospheric compositions, they activate and begin reproductive cycles. Dr. Kim nodded, studying the data streams flowing across her holographic displays. The bacteria were designed to target the specific atmospheric conditions found in Zephyrian ships and colonies. More importantly, they could reproduce exponentially once activated, turning a single spore into billions of organisms within days. What about selectivity? We can't risk contaminating human settlements. The genetic locks are holding perfectly. The bacteria require 3 specific atmospheric markers that only exist in Zephyrian environments: their nitrogen-sulfur ratios, trace methane levels, and magnetic field resonance. Without all 3 triggers, the organisms remain completely inert. Dr. Kim had drawn inspiration from Earth's most successful invasive species. Throughout human history, organisms like rabbits in Australia or zebra mussels in the Great Lakes had demonstrated how quickly life could overwhelm unprepared ecosystems. She was creating something similar, but designed to target specific alien physiologies. Deployment method? We've loaded the first batch into standard cargo containers marked as medical supplies, Dr. Chain explained, pulling up shipping manifests. Captain Torres will distribute them to human trading vessels throughout the Empire. The containers will release microscopic spores during routine cargo transfers. Dr. Kim felt a chill at the elegant simplicity of their weapon. Human merchant ships traveled throughout the galaxy, trading with dozens of species in hundreds of systems. Nobody suspected the quiet human traders who had been peaceful partners for 60 years. The bacteria would spread invisibly through normal commercial channels, remaining dormant until they reached Zephyrian environments. How long until we see results? Conservative estimates suggest the first. Zephyrian colonies will begin experiencing atmospheric contamination within 2 months. The bacteria will initially appear as minor air quality issues, slightly increased respiratory irritation, decreased oxygen efficiency. By month 4, they'll face serious breathing problems. By month 6, Dr. Chun paused, the implications weighing on him despite their justified anger. By month 6, their worlds become uninhabitable. Dr. Kim finished. She thought about the children of New Haven, murdered in their sleep, and her resolve hardened. Good, make sure the trading vessels understand the cargo distribution schedule. Meanwhile, in another sector of human space, Commander Lisa Park was implementing a different aspect of humanity's new war doctrine. Her ship, the Endurance, had once been a deep space research vessel designed for multi-year missions in unexplored regions. Now it served as a mobile command center for Operation Phantom. Commander, we've successfully infiltrated the Proxima Centauri trade hub, reported her intelligence officer, Lieutenant James Wilson. Our operatives have established monitoring stations in 17 different commercial zones. Commander Park studied the holographic map showing human operatives spread throughout the galaxy. During decades of peaceful exploration, humans had established trading posts, research stations, and cultural exchanges in thousands of systems. The galaxy had grown accustomed to seeing human faces in their markets, universities, and spaceports. Now those same humans had become a vast intelligence network. What's the status on the Zephyrian fleet movements? Excellent intel coming in from all sectors. Our people on Vega Station report the Third Fleet is preparing for another cleansing operation against the Tau Ceti colonies. Meanwhile, sources on Altair confirm that the High Command is recalling their border fleets for a major offensive against Earth. Commander Park smiled coldly. The Zephyrians still thought like conventional military strategists, massing fleets for decisive battles, establishing supply lines, maintaining communication networks. They had no idea they were already under surveillance by thousands of human operatives, who had spent decades learning to blend into galactic society. Relay. The Third Fleet information to Captain Hassan's hunting group. They've been waiting for a target that size. She paused, considering their next move. And send a message to our research teams. I want detailed biological profiles on every Zephyrian fleet commander. If they want to target our children, we'll target their leadership. On Kepler 452b. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez was putting the finishing touches on humanity's most ambitious biological warfare project. Her research station, disguised as an agricultural facility, had been developing what appeared to be advanced crop species. In reality, she was creating synthetic ecosystems designed to replace native environments on Zephyrian worlds. The hybrid plant species are exceeding all growth projections, she reported to her team during their daily briefing. Once introduced to suitable environments, they can completely transform atmospheric composition within 18 months. Dr. Rodriguez had studied how Earth's plant life had gradually changed the planet's atmosphere over billions of years, converting a hostile environment into something that could support human life. Her accelerated versions could do the same thing in reverse, slowly poisoning the air on Zephyrian worlds while appearing to be beneficial agricultural improvements. Deployment strategy? We're packaging them as gifts to celebrate new trade relationships. The Zephyrians are actually requesting agricultural exchanges with human colonies that survived their raids. They want to study our farming techniques. Dr. Rodriguez's laugh contained no humor. They'll get exactly what they're asking for. Her assistant, Dr. Kevin Park, raised a concern that had been troubling the research team. Doctor, we're essentially creating biological weapons that could affect entire planetary ecosystems. Are we prepared for the ethical implications? Dr. Rodriguez turned to face her team, her expression showing the weight of their decisions. 3,000 children were murdered while they slept. The galaxy watched and did nothing. Some even applauded. She gestured to the holographic displays showing Zephyrian worlds. We're not targeting civilians randomly, we're responding to genocide with proportional force. They declared war on human children. We're declaring war on their ability to sustain life. The laboratory fell silent as the team contemplated their work. They were scientists and doctors who had devoted their careers to preserving life, now turned into humanity's most dangerous biological weapons designers. But the images of New Haven's burning schools had transformed them from healers into hunters. Dr. Rodriguez activated the facility's communication array and began transmitting deployment orders to human agents throughout the galaxy. Phase 2 of humanity's war was about to begin, and the Zephyrians would never see it coming. By the time they realized their air was turning poisonous and their crops were failing, it would be too late to stop the biological transformation of their worlds. The galaxy was about to learn that humans didn't just hunt individual prey. They could hunt entire ecosystems to extinction. Captain Marcus Webb had spent 15 years mapping uncharted sectors for the Colonial Survey. His ship, the Persistence, equipped for months-long exploration missions in deep space. Now, 3 days after Ambassador Chun's declaration, he found himself leading the first active hunt in humanity's new war. His target was the Zephyrian 7th Fleet, commanded by Admiral Krexther, the architect of New Haven's destruction. Intelligence reports indicated the fleet was conducting cleansing operations against 3 more human colonies in the Outer Rim. Traditional military doctrine would suggest a direct assault was suicide. The 7th Fleet contained 200 warships protected by energy shields that could deflect atomic weapons. Webb wasn't planning a traditional assault. Status report. Jenny, he called to his navigator, Lieutenant Jennifer Park, who had volunteered to retrofit her deep space survey skills for hunting. Target fleet located in the Kepler 438 system, sir. They're conducting orbital bombardment of New Tokyo Colony as expected. Jenny's voice carried controlled rage. She had friends on New Tokyo. Fleet formation suggests they're preparing to hit the residential sectors next. Webb studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian ships moved in perfect formation, their massive hulls bristling with weapons designed to crack planets. They had been the Empire's finest fleet for 2 centuries, veterans of dozens of conquest campaigns. But they had never been hunted by humans. Dr. Martinez, are the modifications ready? Webb turned to his science officer, Dr. Elena Martinez, who had spent the last 72 hours converting their geological survey equipment into something far more sinister. Atmospheric seeding charges are loaded and programmed. Sir. Elena's expression was grim but determined. We've modified the terraforming viruses to target Zephyrian respiratory systems specifically. Once released into their ship atmospheres, the virus will cause gradual suffocation over 6 hours. Webb nodded. During their decades of peaceful exploration, humans had developed incredibly sophisticated terraforming technology. They could reshape atmospheres, introduce new elements, and even modify existing ecosystems to support life. The same technology that created gardens on barren worlds could also create death in the void of space. Tommy, how are we looking on stealth approach? Webb asked his engineer, Chief Warrant Officer Thomas Kim. The cargo bay modifications are holding, sir. We're reading as a standard asteroid on their sensors. Tommy had spent days configuring their survey ship to mimic space debris. The Persistence was always good at hiding in asteroid fields during our mapping missions. Now we're just hiding among artificial asteroids. Webb watched the tactical display as the Zephyrian fleet continued its bombardment. Children were dying down there while he planned his approach. Every minute of delay meant more innocence lost, but hasty action would accomplish nothing. Humans had learned patience during millions of years of hunting prey across Earth's varied landscapes. All right, people. We go in slow and quiet. The Zephyrians have ruled space for so long they've forgotten to watch for threats from behind. Webb activated the ship's modified drives. They're about to learn why Persistence hunters dominated Earth. The Persistence drifted toward the Zephyrian fleet like a piece of cosmic debris, its signature masked by advanced camouflage technology originally designed to hide survey teams from dangerous alien wildlife. The Zephyrians maintained their formation. Confident in their superiority and dismissive of any potential threats, Admiral Krexler stood on his flagship's bridge, watching New Tokyo cities burn below. The human colony had surrendered after the first orbital strike, but the Admiral had orders to ensure complete eradication. The Empire wanted no human survivors to spread tales of resistance. Admiral, long-range sensors detect an asteroid approaching the fleet perimeter, reported his sensor officer. Mass approximately 12,000 tons, trajectory suggests natural drift. Krexler barely glanced at the reading. Space was full of debris and his shields could deflect anything short of a moon-sized impact. Ignore it. Continue bombardment of Sector 7. The Persistence closed to within 50 kilometers of the flagship before launching its first attack. But instead of firing weapons, the survey ship released what appeared to be standard atmospheric probe pods, devices, typically used to analyze planetary air compositions. The pods drifted toward individual Zephyrian ships, their small size and low energy signatures making them invisible to military sensors designed to detect missiles and fighter craft. When they reached their targets, they didn't explode. Instead, they attached to hull breach points and began quietly introducing modified atmospheric agents into the ship's life support systems. Dr. Martinez monitored the biological warfare deployment from her science station. Atmospheric infiltration successful on 12 targets, sir. The terraforming virus should begin affecting Zephyrian respiratory systems within 30 minutes. Webb continued his approach using gravitational fields from nearby planets to mask the ship's movements. This was how humans had hunted on Earth, with patience, intelligence, and the willingness to track prey for days until the perfect opportunity arose on the Zephyrian flagship. The first symptoms began appearing 28 minutes after exposure. Bridge officers started experiencing mild breathing difficulties, dismissing the symptoms as stress from combat operations. The terraforming virus worked slowly, mimicking altitude sickness before progressing to more severe respiratory distress. Admiral, multiple reports of crew members experiencing breathing problems across the fleet, the medical officer reported with growing concern. Symptoms include shortness of breath, dizziness, and chest pain. Admiral Krexler felt his own breathing becoming labored, but attributed it to the excitement of conquest. Medical teams to all affected stations. We will not halt operations for minor discomfort. Webb watched his prey slowly suffocate through biological warfare that left no trace of human involvement. To any investigator, it would appear as though the Zephyrian fleet had encountered a virulent space plague. But Dr. Martinez had designed the virus to be specific to Zephyrian physiology. It would be harmless to other species. "Sir, should we move to assist the colony below?" Lieutenant Park asked, watching New Tokyo's continued bombardment. "Negative. We stay hidden until the fleet is neutralized." Webb's voice carried the cold calculation of a persistence hunter. "If we reveal ourselves too early, other fleets will adapt to our tactics. Better to let these bastards think they're dying from natural causes." Over the next 4 hours, the Zephyrian 7th Fleet gradually succumbed to respiratory failure. Ship after ship went silent as crew members collapsed at their stations. The flagship's final transmission was Admiral Krexler, gasping for air as he tried to understand what invisible enemy had destroyed his fleet. When the last Zephyrian vessel fell silent, Webb finally revealed his position and broadcast a message toward New Tokyo Colony. "This is Captain Webb of the Earth Colonial Survey. The threat has been neutralized. Medical assistance is inbound." As the Persistence moved toward the human colony to render aid, Dr. Martinez compiled her report on the first biological attack in the new war. The virus would break down within hours, leaving no trace of its artificial origin. To the galaxy, it would appear that the mighty 7th Fleet had simply vanished while conducting routine operations. Webb looked at the dead Zephyrian ships drifting in space and felt no satisfaction, only grim determination. This was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn that humans didn't fight wars, they hunted enemies to extinction. The Galactic Assembly had never seen anything like it. Ambassador Sarah Chun stood before 3,000 delegates representing every major species in the Empire. Her small human form dwarfed by the towering architecture of the Great Hall on Centaurus Prime. The chamber fell silent as she approached the speaker's platform, a space traditionally reserved for victory celebrations and surrender ceremonies. Chancellor Vorthuk of the Zephyrian Empire lounged in his ceremonial throne, his 6 arms draped casually over the armrests. The massive reptilian being had ruled the galaxy for 4 centuries, commanding fleets that had conquered systems before humanity had even invented the wheel. He viewed this human gathering as entertainment. "The human wishes to address the Assembly," he announced with amusement, "perhaps to formally surrender and beg for mercy after the unfortunate incident on Kepler 442b. Sarah placed a data crystal into the platform's communication array. Her voice carried across the chamber and was simultaneously broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. "Honorable delegates, I stand before you not to surrender, but to deliver a formal declaration of war." Laughter erupted from several delegations. The insectoid hive mind representatives clicked their mandibles in what passed for humor among their species. The crystalline ethereals resonated with harmonic frequencies that sounded like cosmic wind chimes. Even the usually stoic mechanical collectives emitted electronic, buzzing sounds. "The human species hereby declares total war against the Galactic Empire and all member civilizations who supported or remained silent during the massacre of 3,000 human children on New Haven Colony." Sarah's voice cut through the laughter like a plasma blade. "This declaration extends to every world, every fleet, and every individual who serves this empire." Chancellor Vorthuk's amusement faded. "You cannot be serious, little human. Your entire species numbers less than 20 billion across 12 worlds. The Empire commands populations exceeding quadrillions across 12,000 systems. Your combined military assets could not challenge a single sector fleet." Sarah activated her personal holographic display, showing the smoking ruins of New Haven Colony. The images of destroyed schools and murdered children filled the massive chamber screens. "You killed our young to send a message about human weakness. Today I deliver our reply." She pressed a control on her wrist device. Across human space, every colony, every space station, every exploration vessel received the same transmission simultaneously. The message was simple. "The children of New Haven call for justice. Operation Extinction is authorized." "You mock the very concept of warfare." Chancellor Vorthuk rose from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. "Humans are herbivores who choose negotiation over combat. You lack the killer instinct necessary for galactic conflict. Your species has never even conquered your own homeworld completely." Sarah smiled, and something in that expression made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. "Chancellor, you've made one fundamental error in your assessment of humanity. We're not herbivores. We're omnivores from a death world that tried to kill us for millions of years. Every species on Earth that threatened human children is now extinct." She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed images of Earth's history. Massive predators that had once ruled the planet appeared on screen: saber-toothed cats, direwolves, cave bears, giant crocodiles. We didn't beat these creatures through technology or magic. We hunted them down with persistence, intelligence, and absolute ruthlessness when our offspring were threatened. The chamber grew quiet as the implications began to sink in. Sarah continued, "You see our peaceful colonies and assume weakness. You see our diplomatic efforts and mistake them for cowardice. But you've forgotten something crucial about successful predators. We only look peaceful when we're well fed." Chancellor Vorthak scoffed. "Pretty speeches cannot overcome the mathematics of warfare. Your fleets are outnumbered millions to one." "Our fleets?" Sarah laughed, and the sound sent chills through delegates who had never heard a human express such cold amusement. "Chancellor, you still don't understand. We're not going to fight your fleets. We're going to hunt you." She activated another program on her device. 3 minutes ago, every human ship in the galaxy received detailed intelligence packages containing the locations of your military academies, government centers, and nursery worlds. They also received something else: detailed biological profiles of every species in this chamber. The ethereal delegation began resonating at a higher frequency, expressing alarm. The hive mind representatives stopped their clicking entirely. Even the mechanical collectives ceased their electronic humming. "We've spent 60 years studying your weaknesses while you ignored our strengths," Sarah continued. "We know that Zephyrian eggs require specific atmospheric conditions to hatch. We know that ethereal crystalline matrices shatter at certain sonic frequencies. We know that hive mind queens die if separated from their workers for more than 72 hours. Chancellor Vorthak's confidence wavered. "You would not dare target civilian populations. You murdered 3,000 children in their sleep." Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the massive chamber. "You broadcast their executions as entertainment. You declared human offspring to be pests that needed extermination." Her eyes locked onto the Chancellor's. "You have no civilians anymore. You have no non-combatants. You have no sanctuary." She began walking down the platform steps, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. "Every human who ever wore a uniform is now a soldier in this war. Every human scientist is now a weapons researcher. Every human explorer is now a scout behind enemy lines. Every human child who survived your massacre is now a future weapon pointed directly at your heart." Sarah reached the chamber floor and turned back to face the assembly. "This isn't a war for territory or resources. This is a species war. The kind that ends with one side extinct and the other side telling stories about the monsters that once threatened their children." She activated her personal transport beacon. As the energy field began to envelop her, she delivered her final words to the assembly. "We gave you 6,000 years to evolve beyond the need to murder innocents. Since you've chosen to remain monsters, we'll treat you exactly like we treated every other predator that threatened human children throughout our history." The transport beam engaged, leaving the chamber in absolute silence. Chancellor Vorthak stared at the empty space where the small human had stood, finally beginning to understand that his empire had just declared war on the most successful persistence hunters in galactic history. In space around Zentaris Prime, human ships that had seemed to flee were already beginning their hunt. Ambassador Sarah Chun had always prided herself on finding peaceful solutions. Standing in the ruins of New Haven Colony, she struggled to comprehend the senseless brutality before her. The small human settlement on Kepler 442b had been home to 15,000 colonists, including 3,000 children who attended the orbital learning stations. The Zephyrian Imperial fleet had arrived without warning 3 days ago. Their massive dreadnoughts cast shadows across the planet's surface as they demanded immediate evacuation. The colonists had tried to negotiate, offering to relocate to a different sector. They were farmers, teachers, and engineers who had spent 20 years transforming the barren world into a garden paradise. The Galactic Empire's response was swift and merciless. Sarah knelt beside a small playground, where twisted metal swings hung motionless in the alien wind. The orbital bombardment had been precise, targeting the school districts first. The Empire's message was clear: humans were an unwelcome species in their territory, and children represented the future they refused to allow. Her diplomatic escort, Commander Rodriguez, approached with grim news. "Ma'am, we've confirmed the casualty reports. All learning stations were destroyed in the first wave. No survivors from the children's residential quarters." His voice cracked despite his military training. They used plasma bombardment specifically designed to ensure no escape pods could launch. Sarah's hands trembled as she picked up a small toy rover, its bright red paint now scorched black. Tommy Nakamura, age 7, had shown it to her during her last diplomatic visit. He had dreamed of becoming an explorer like his grandfather who first charted this system. Now Tommy and his dreams were nothing but ash scattered across an alien landscape. The Zephyrians had justified the massacre as preemptive pest control. Their Supreme Chancellor had transmitted a galaxy-wide broadcast explaining that humans bred too quickly and consumed too many resources. The children, he claimed, were future threats to galactic stability. Sarah activated her quantum communicator, establishing a direct link to Earth's united government. The blue hologram of President Martinez materialized, his expression hopeful until he saw Sarah's tear-stained face. "Ambassador Chun, please tell me the reports are exaggerated," he said quietly. 3,000 children, Mr. President, murdered in their sleep. The Empire classified it as territorial cleansing. Sarah's voice was steady now, filled with a cold determination that surprised even her. They broadcast the execution across 17 star systems as a warning to other human colonies. President Martinez closed his eyes. Sarah could see the weight of leadership crushing down on him. Humanity had spent 60 years building peaceful relationships across the galaxy. They had shared technology, art, and culture with dozens of species. They had been the mediators in 3 major galactic conflicts. What are our options, Ambassador? Sarah stood among the ruins, surrounded by the ashes of innocence. She thought of every diplomatic protocol she had memorized, every peace treaty she had negotiated, every compromise she had crafted to avoid conflict. All of it seemed meaningless now. The Empire has 12,000 member worlds and a military force beyond our comprehension, she said. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their fleets could reduce Earth to rubble within days. She paused, watching a child's drawing flutter in the wind, a crayon picture of Earth's blue skies. But they made one critical error, which is? They underestimated what humans become when their children are threatened. Sarah's voice carried a weight that made seasoned diplomats across the galaxy stop and listen. Mr. President, I formally request permission to declare war on the Galactic Empire. The silence stretched across light years. President Martinez stared at his ambassador, the woman who had prevented 7 wars through patient negotiation. Sarah, you're talking about humanity against the entire galaxy. No, sir. Sarah crushed the toy rover in her fist, metal fragments cutting into her palm. I'm talking about unleashing something the galaxy has never seen. They think humans are weak because we choose peace. They think we're inferior because we value life. They're about to learn why Earth's apex predator became the dominant species on a planet that tried to kill everything. She looked directly into the hologram's eyes. They want to see what humans really are when diplomacy fails? When our children's blood cries out for justice? Grant me this declaration, and I'll show them why every species on Earth that ever threatened humanity's offspring went extinct. The communication ended with President Martinez promising an answer within 6 hours. Sarah stood alone among the ruins, no longer the patient diplomat who had spent decades building bridges between species. The galaxy had chosen to burn those bridges when they murdered humanity's future. She opened her personal files and began composing what would become known as the Declaration of Species War, the first formal declaration of conflict against an entire galactic civilization in recorded history. As she wrote, the wind carried the ashes of 3,000 dreams across an alien sky, and Sarah Chun began planning humanity's transformation from peaceful explorers to the galaxy's most terrifying predators. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps, watching holographic displays that showed the largest military force in galactic history approaching Earth. The Zephyrian Omega fleet consisted of 5,000 warships, each one capable of cracking a moon in half. Chancellor Vorthak had committed nearly half the Empire's total military resources to destroying humanity's homeworld. Status report on planetary defenses. Admiral Chun requested from her tactical officer, Commander Torres. All orbital platforms are online and ready, Admiral. We have 200 automated defense stations positioned throughout the system, each equipped with the new gravitational weaponry Dr. Patel's team developed. Commander Torres paused, reviewing additional data. The asteroid belt modifications are complete. We've converted approximately 4,000 asteroids into kinetic weapons platforms. Admiral Chun nodded grimly. During the 4 months since Ambassador Chin's declaration of war, Earth scientists and engineers had transformed the entire solar system into a fortress. But their preparations went far beyond traditional military defenses. They had turned the laws of physics themselves into weapons. What about the solar collection array? Dr. Kim's team has completed the orbital mirror network, reported Chief Engineer Martinez. We can now focus and redirect solar energy with pinpoint accuracy anywhere in the system. The Zephyrians won't know what hit them until their ships start melting. The massive Zephyrian fleet began its final approach, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Admiral Krexan, the Empire's most celebrated military commander, stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominion, studying tactical displays that showed Earth's pathetic defenses. 200 orbital platforms against 5,000 ships, he mused to his tactical officer. The humans must be delusional to think they can resist the full power of the Empire. His sensor officer reported from the communications station. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planetary surface. The main screen activated, showing Admiral Chun in her underground command center. Her expression was calm, almost serene, as she addressed the invasion fleet. I am Admiral Sarah Chun, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system before we demonstrate why every species that ever threatened human children on Earth went extinct. Admiral Krexan laughed, the sound echoing across his bridge. Pitiful human, your species will be extinct within the hour. You cannot threaten the might of the Empire. Admiral Chun smiled, and something in that expression made several Zephyrian officers step back from their stations. Admiral Krexan, you've made the same mistake every predator on Earth made. You've confused our choice to be peaceful with an inability to be anything else. She gestured to someone off-screen. You have 10 seconds to reconsider. Begin planetary bombardment, Admiral Krexan ordered, dismissing the human threat. Target the major population centers first. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire, 5,000 ships launching enough destructive energy to vaporize a planet. But the bombardment never reached Earth's surface. Instead, the energy beams struck an invisible barrier that seemed to absorb and redirect the assault. What the hell? Admiral Krexan stared at his displays in disbelief. Tactical, explain what just happened. Admiral, the humans appear to have some form of planetary shield grid. Our energy weapons are being deflected by gravitational field manipulators positioned throughout the system. Dr. Patel's gravitational weaponry was based on humanity's most advanced physics search. Instead of trying to stop the Zephyrian weapons, the defense grid redirected gravitational fields to bend space-time itself, causing energy beams to curve away from Earth and into deep space. Admiral Chun's voice came over the communication channel again. You've just demonstrated the fundamental difference between human and Zephyrian military philosophy. You try to overpower your enemies? We prefer to make them destroy themselves. She activated another control system. Throughout the asteroid belt, thousands of seemingly ordinary asteroids suddenly revealed their true nature. Each one had been hollowed out and equipped with gravitational drive systems, transforming them into massive kinetic weapons capable of achieving significant fractions of light speed. Launch Phase 1. Admiral Chun ordered. The first wave of weaponized asteroids accelerated toward the Zephyrian fleet, not in a direct assault, but in carefully calculated trajectories that would use planetary gravitational fields to achieve maximum velocity. The Zephyrians had seconds to react to objects moving at 30% of light speed. Admiral Crexon watched in horror as his mighty fleet began to disintegrate. The kinetic weapons struck with the force of nuclear explosions, but their true devastation came from their precision targeting. Instead of random destruction, each asteroid had been programmed to target specific ship types, command vessels, communications arrays, and weapons platforms. Evasive maneuvers, he shouted. But ships designed for overwhelming firepower were too massive to avoid weapons moving at relativistic speeds. The first assault destroyed nearly 800 Zephyrian vessels in less than 3 minutes. Admiral Chun observed the carnage with the same clinical detachment her ancestors had shown when hunting mammoth across Ice Age landscapes. Phase 2, she commanded, the orbital mirror network activated, focusing concentrated solar energy into coherent beams that could melt ship hulls from millions of kilometers away. But the humans didn't target the ships themselves. They targeted the Zephyrian weapon systems, systematically stripping away the fleet's ability to fight, back while leaving the crews alive to witness their powerlessness. Admiral Crexon realized he was no longer commanding a military engagement. He was trapped in a carefully designed slaughter. The humans had turned the entire solar system into a weapon, using physics itself to dismantle the greatest fleet in galactic history. Admiral Chun, he transmitted desperately, we request terms for surrender. The response came with chilling calm. Admiral, the time for surrender was before you murdered 3,000 children in their sleep. Now you're going to experience what happens when humans decide that a species represents an existential threat to our offspring. She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried the weight of millions of years of evolution on a death world. Your empire made one critical error in judgment. You assume that because we choose peace, we don't understand war. But humans didn't evolve to fight wars. We evolved to hunt threats to extinction. Admiral Chun activated the final phase of Earth's defense system. Hidden throughout the solar system, gravitational generators began creating artificial space distortions that trapped the remaining Zephyrian ships in inescapable gravitational fields. The fleet that had come to destroy humanity was now imprisoned in Earth's gravitational web, helpless and completely at human mercy. You came here to commit genocide. Admiral Chun's final transmission reached every ship in the trapped fleet. Instead, you're going to serve as a demonstration to the galaxy. Every species watching this engagement will understand exactly what happens when someone threatens human children. The siege of Earth was over before it truly began, but the real war was just getting started. The galaxy was about to witness what happened when the most successful persistence hunters in universal history decided that an entire species needed to be eliminated. Ambassador Sarah Chun stood once again before the Galactic Assembly, but the magnificent chamber on Zentaurus Prime was now a hollow shell of its former glory. Half the delegate seats sat empty, their occupants having fled as human hunting fleets swept across the galaxy. Those who remained watched her with expressions ranging from terror to desperate hope. 6 months had passed since the siege of Earth. 6 months during which the galaxy learned why apex predators from death worlds should never be provoked. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled 12,000 systems for 4 millennia, no longer existed. Their homeworld was a quarantined wasteland where biological weapons had transformed the atmosphere into poison for their species. Their fleets drifted as empty hulks in space, crews suffocated by terraforming viruses. Their colonies had been systematically hunted down by human ships that appeared from asteroid fields, Like ancient predators emerging from tall grass, Chancellor Vorthok was notably absent from his ceremonial throne, having died 3 weeks earlier when the air recycling system in his personal bunker failed. Human biological weapons had finally reached even the most secure locations in Zephyrian space. "Honored delegates," Sarah began, her voice carrying to the few hundred representatives who remained, "I stand before you today to discuss terms for ending this conflict." The ethereal delegation resonated with frequencies that suggested desperate relief. The hive mind representatives clicked frantically, communicating at speeds that indicated extreme agitation. Even the mechanical collectives emitted rapid electronic pulses that might have been digital prayers. "The Zephyrian Empire has been eliminated," Sarah continued with clinical precision. "Their species now exists in carefully controlled reservation worlds, where they can survive but never again threaten other civilizations. This was not genocide, it was quarantine. Every Zephyrian who survives did so because they were not involved in military operations against human civilians." She gestured to holographic displays showing the current state of the galaxy. Where once the Empire's territory had been marked in imperial purple, now dozens of different colors indicated newly independent systems. The question before this assembly is simple: what kind of galaxy do we build from here? Prime Minister Zethral of the Andromedian Trade Federation, one of the few delegates brave enough to speak, raised a trembling appendage. "Ambassador Chun, your species has demonstrated capabilities that dwarf our understanding of warfare. What assurance do we have that humanity won't simply replace the Empire as the galaxy's dominant power?" Sarah smiled, and after 6 months of witnessing human capabilities, that smile no longer seemed warm and diplomatic. "Minister Zethral, you're asking the wrong question. You should be asking what humanity wants from this galaxy." She activated a personal holographic display showing images of human colonies throughout space, farms on alien worlds, research stations in nebulae, children playing in dome cities under foreign stars. "We want what we've always wanted: room to grow, knowledge to discover, and safety for our offspring. The Empire threatened all three, so we eliminated the Empire. But we have no interest in ruling other species." Sarah's expression hardened. "We do, however, have significant interest in ensuring that no future empire ever targets human children." Dr. Vexrion, the scientific collective, asked the question everyone was thinking: what does that mean in practical terms? "It means this galaxy now operates under a very simple rule," Sarah replied. "Any civilization, alliance, or individual that targets human civilians, especially children, will be hunted to extinction by the most successful persistence predators in galactic history. This isn't a threat. It's a natural law, like gravity or entropy." She gestured to another holographic display showing human fleets positioned throughout the galaxy. "We've established monitoring stations in every major system. We have agents embedded in every significant civilization. We possess biological weapons specifically designed for every known species' physiology. And we've proven that we have the will to use all of these capabilities when our children are threatened." The chamber fell silent as delegates processed the implications. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy in the traditional sense. They had transformed it into a hunting preserve where they served as the ultimate apex predators. "However," Sarah continued, and hope flickered in several delegates' expressions, "we prefer cooperation to conflict. Human nature includes not just the capacity for ruthless hunting, but also the desire for peaceful coexistence. We're offering the galaxy a choice." She activated one final holographic display showing proposed trade agreements, research partnerships, and cultural exchange programs. "Work with us to build a civilization where no species targets another's children. Share knowledge, resources, and exploration opportunities. Help us create something better than the Empire's tyranny of fear." Prime Minister Zethral asked hesitantly, "And if we choose cooperation?" "Then you'll discover that humans make excellent allies. We'll share our terraforming technology to help you expand into previously uninhabitable systems. Our medical research can extend lifespans and cure diseases that have plagued your species for millennia. Our exploration capabilities can open new regions of space for colonization. Sarah's expression softened slightly. We spent 60 years proving that we're good neighbors when treated with respect. And if we choose conflict? Sarah's smile returned, cold and predatory. Then you'll join the Zephyrians in their reservation worlds if you're fortunate enough to survive the process. Dr. Vexrion leaned forward in his seat. Ambassador, you're essentially offering us protection in exchange for compliance with human standards of behavior. Dr. Vexrion, I'm offering you the chance to live in a galaxy where children can grow up safely, where scientific knowledge is shared freely, and where conflicts are resolved through negotiation rather than genocide. Sarah's voice carried absolute conviction. The alternative is to try your luck against the species that eliminated every major predator on their homeworld and then expanded across the stars. The delegates began murmuring among themselves, complex alien languages blending into a symphony of concern and calculation. Finally, Prime Minister Zethriel spoke for the Assembly. Ambassador Chun, the Galactic Assembly formally accepts humanity's terms for peace. We agree to establish the new Galactic Compact under human oversight, with specific protections for civilian populations of all species. Sarah nodded approvingly. Excellent. The compact will be administered jointly by human representatives and elected delegates from member species. Our role will be to ensure that no future empire targets civilian populations, while your representatives will handle day-to-day governance and cultural affairs. She prepared to leave the platform, then turned back for one final statement. One more thing, delegates. The galaxy should understand that humanity's transformation during this war was not temporary. We didn't become hunters for 6 months and then return to being farmers and scientists. We've always been both. We simply reminded the galaxy why apex predators are called apex. As Sarah Chun left the assembly chamber, she reflected on the price of peace. Humanity had sacrificed its image as harmless explorers to become the galaxy's permanent guardians against genocide. They would never again be underestimated, but they would also never again be truly trusted by other species. But as she thought about the children playing safely on human worlds throughout the galaxy, and the alien children who would grow up in a universe where targeting civilians meant extinction, she decided the trade was worth it. The galaxy now knew that humanity's children were protected by the most dangerous species in universal history. The age of empires was over. The age of human guardianship had begun, and it would endure as long as the stars themselves burned in space.